What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Cold Takes from the Land.
Cold Takes from the Land, where you get the coldest takes from the hottest Cleveland sports fans.
Oh, man. This has been a shitty couple weeks, buddy. How about it?
Yeah, I'm about tired of doing this shit, buddy. Not the podcast, but fucking coming on here and just shitting on our fucking Cleveland Browns, because it was another tough one. Not a great game.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys are all aware at this point, but the Cleveland Browns lost to the LA Rams 36-19. And it wasn't good. It was not good.
We almost had another scoregami this week. I think this score, 36-19, has been done one other time in NFL history.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yep, that's what I was reading on Twitter. Yeah, it was like back in the 80s. I think 88. It might have been. I think we were in another game that was this score, 36-19.
Huh, I didn't know that. It is kind of a weird score. But yeah. It's it wasn't as big of like a blowout as you would think by the score, because it was 20-19 with like 4 or 5 minutes left. But it fucking
just fucking fell apart in that last 6 minutes, but it wasn't good.
Yeah, we unraveled, buddy.
Yeah, I think the loudest time I yelled at my TV was in that last minute and a half where Flacco was getting blasted, and I audibly yelled, I'm like, what the fuck are we doing? Get him out of the game. I'm like, we're gonna get this guy killed on a play that doesn't matter.
Yeah, I'm assuming the only reason he stayed in was just to build, like, just to get reps with the guys, because I feel like in most other situations, the guy would have got pulled. So, but yeah, I'm starting to feel the season is starting to unravel a little bit, and it ain't good.
Yeah, I mean, 7-5 is a lot worse than 7-3. 2 weeks ago we came in 7-3, obviously, but it's not over yet. But this makes next week almost a must-win. I mean, you got to come out and put the pounding on Jacksonville. But the fact that I don't know why we haven't committed to Flacco as a starter next week yet, but I guess somebody asked Stefanski in the post game, and he's like, I'm not willing to commit to him starting next week. If he does not start and DTR starts, there's going to be hell to pay, because I am not going to have that fucking shit.
Yeah, and I'll get into that with my positives. Joe Flacco was not the fucking problem today.
No, he was the best player on our offense, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but overall it was a pretty tough day. But obviously you guys know our job here. We got to come up with 3 positives and 3 negatives every week, and there were some things to enlighten the mood. Not very much, but there was some. So with that, we can get into our 3 positives. I'll let you go first on that front there, buddy.
Sounds good, man. I think we both had the same positive for one, but I just put Joe Flacco. He looked good out there. He still throws a really good ball, a very catchable ball. That first drive was the best first drive we've had yet this season, to march right down the field, up 7-0. So I thought he looked great out there. He was the one bright spot on offense outside of Elijah Moore, I thought.
Yeah, I thought Flacco looked pretty good. That was also my first point, is Joe Flacco, he looked better than even I thought he could look, just because he seemed to be in time with a lot of the quick game stuff. He still can fucking rip it, man. And he was out there even after he lost Amari Cooper early on, or kind of midway through the game. He was still, finding open guys, making some plays here and there. Obviously, he's not the most mobile guy, and he's definitely very aged at this point, but he was still able to go out there, stand in the pocket, make some good throws. Obviously, the interception towards the end of the game was pretty bad. He kind of just was throwing it up.
That was his one bad throw, I thought.
Yeah, it seemed like he kind of just threw it up and kind of hoped for the best. I think that was his one issue, and I think it's just lack of reps with the guys. Is like when it came to like the deep ball and like certain specific situations, you can tell he wasn't completely in sync with everybody. It would like either would miss a guy high or low, or would like throw a deep ball, but he'd throw it like where it drop at an angle that the receiver's not used to trying to catch it from. But yeah, I thought Flacco looked pretty good. He had 254 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. And he threw the ball 44 times too, and was able to battle it out there, and was definitely not the reason we lost. So I'll give him some credit, and I do think he should be the starter moving forward, unless DTR can somehow give us something like really nice. But at this point, Flacco looks to be the best option.
Yeah, the way he threw the ball today, I think you got to put him out there next week against Jacksonville. I just think Flacco gives us the best chance to win next week as opposed to DTR. He has way more experience, throws a better ball, so I think we have a better chance to win games if we put him out there.
Yeah, Flacco looked pretty decent. Obviously, like I already said, he wasn't anything special, but he was getting everyone involved. It seemed like he had a decent connection with Cooper. It would have been nice to see Cooper finish the game, though of course he got injured and he's out with a concussion. So who knows how that'll go? Which
is not good, because Goodwin has the same thing, and he's missed 3 straight games now. So Lord knows if Cooper's out for 3 games, our season might be over.
Right, but I mean, even down the stretch with Flacco, with having his best receivers being Elijah Moore and Tillman and Njoku, he was able to still move the offense well enough, and obviously a missed extra point kept us from 20 points. But with Flacco being in the circumstances already with the injuries, on top of Cooper getting injured again midway through the game, them putting up a couple touchdown drives and a couple field goals, I would have been pretty happy with that if you told me that before the game. So it was nice to see him play well.
The thing that pained me the most with his interception, the one interception that Flacco threw, was to John Johnson, and afterwards he was kind of talking some smack on Twitter. And the one good thing about Browns fans, even in a loss, I was looking at the comments and everybody was absolutely roasting this dude. Like, come on now, buddy. Don't forget the effort you gave us in Cleveland. They showed the play from the New Orleans game where he could have saved the touchdown and didn't even go to tackle the guy.
Yeah, it's just such a Browns thing, though, for that to happen. Of course, like the Ravens game, you have Odell Beckham gets the long touchdown, and then this game, the one interception.
At least Odell's been good in the past, though. Like, John Johnson's had one good season in his NFL career.
Yeah, his latter half recently has been pretty not great, and but it would be us to fucking throw him an interception and let him toot his own horn. But
hey, buddy, Thornhill's looking a lot like John Johnson the last couple weeks. I've not been happy with him whatsoever either, to be honest with you.
Yeah, he hasn't been very good either. But hey,
anyway,
we're on the positives.
Supposed to be talking positives.
Yeah, we're on the positives.
Yeah, we're on the positives.
You get into your second point, since our first point was the same.
Yeah, these will be quick, but my second point was I thought the O-line did a good job in pass protection until the very end there, when they kind of just obviously gave up a couple sacks. But I thought I think through the first 3.5 quarters, I don't think they gave up a single sack. So Flacco remained upright throughout most of the game. They did a good job keeping people off of him, which was nice. Being an older quarterback, the last thing we need is to have him get hurt, and then we throw old XFL legend PJ Walker back out there. So they did a good job pass protecting, I thought, and that was one of my second negatives.
Yeah,
positives. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. That was actually my second positive, was also the offensive line holding up very well in pass protection until the last drive. They did a pretty good job. Obviously, we already know how banged up we are and whatnot. I don't need to repeat that story over and over again. And going against a Rams, defensive line that isn't as good as it's been before. You still got Aaron Donald, and you got the young kid Byron Young, who's got a bright future. So you still got some guys you got to watch out for. And Aaron Donald definitely showed his dominance a little bit in the run game, but in terms of pass protection, we did a pretty good job, like you said, and was able to keep Joe Flacco upright and making decisions and putting the ball where he needs to. And that was one of my points, obviously, going into the game, is he's not very mobile, so you don't want him running around because for obvious reasons.
No.
So
it's not going to be much running. It's going to be a lot of gimping around out there at 39 years old.
Yeah, it's going to be like when you're playing 2K and you do like 17 dribble moves and your guys' energy goes out, but you keep trying to do dribble moves and he's moving like a snail.
Pretty much, man. They said during the broadcast he's the second oldest
starting quarterback now, behind Rodgers, who's currently injured. So
yeah, he's a well-seasoned fella, so don't want him getting killed. But yeah, I agree with you.
He might have the best arm of anybody on our roster, which is still pretty disappointing. I think he might even have a better arm than Watson still.
I was trying to tell you this at work. He can rip it, man. Like he's always had one of the strongest arms in the league. I think Watson obviously has better arm talent, but in terms of just arm strength, like Flacco can rip that shit in there, and that's.
Yeah, he gets a lot of air under the ball, which is nice.
Yeah, he even on the touchdown throw to Jerome Ford, he almost overshot him just because he put a lot of air under it, and Ford fell his way into the end zone because he couldn't get his footing.
I know. Even on the butt cheek catch too, which I'll talk about next, because that was my third and final positive, was Elijah Moore. Had a pretty strong outing, his best outing of the season so far, with 4 catches for 83 yards and that one big sideline catch that was almost overturned, but he had one ass cheek in bounds. So thought he had the best game he's had so far this season in a Browns uniform.
Yeah, that shit was funny. I never thought I'd hear a referee say butt cheek on.
Yeah, I can't believe he said butt cheek. He had his right butt cheek in bounds. 1 butt cheek equals 2 feet, they said.
Yeah, because what's funny is when I was watching and I saw the catch, I'm like, his butt went down. I'm pretty sure that means it's the same deal as if a knee or elbow goes down. And he's like, yep, his butt cheek was down. I was like, oh, I didn't think you were gonna say that, buddy. But you know what? It's cool.
Yeah, dude, it's weirdly stressful how many plays like that we have per game with the Browns. There's so many. Even the Njoku one that was reversed, where his toe is on the freaking boundary barely. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, we have 3 or 4 of these a game, and every other game I watch has none. I'm like, why the fuck does Cleveland games always have to be so stressful?
Yeah, this was a stressful one, buddy. But
it was.
At least one of the less stressful things was the butt cheek catch. And to add on to your Elijah Moore point, my third point was not specifically Elijah Moore. It was actually, my exact words were, receivers actually getting some separation. Obviously, Elijah Moore played pretty well. Harrison Bryant actually played pretty well and got open a few times, had the touchdown, and then he had 5 catches on 5 targets, so that's pretty good. Obviously, we know Amari Cooper, when he was playing, was getting open. Even Cedric Tillman got open over the middle, the one
Still
play.
dropping that ball for Coop, man. He's been dropping the ball a lot the last couple weeks.
Yeah, I'm gonna get into the drops here in our next segment, but I felt like guys were actually getting open. Even David Bell had a couple nice plays where he was able to get open and get some separation. So I just thought I was pretty pleased overall with the pass game, especially with the circumstances. Flacco hasn't even been there for a full 2 weeks practicing with the team. He's only taken first team reps just this week. It's his first team reps he's taken in damn near a year, and was able to go in there and play a decent defense and was able to still have some success, and the receivers were an extension of that. I thought they played pretty well. The run game was pretty quiet. I wouldn't say it was awful, but it just was pretty quiet, so you kind of had to rely on the pass game a bit more, and honestly I felt like the offense did enough to win the game. Obviously there's some things that prevented that from happening that I'm going to get into, but to finalize my points, that's kind of where I'm at in terms of the positive.
Yeah, I agree with you. Let's get on to the negatives so we can talk about the fun stuff.
Oh yeah, we're getting fun, buddy.
Yes, sir. Do you want to start us out with the negatives since I started us with the positives?
I'm ready. My first negative, and I think this is the number one negative of the team. It was a problem last week. It's a problem this week, and now I'm concerned. We are not getting any fucking pressure. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know what the fuck happened. Obviously, I know Myles Garrett's hurt, and he could only play so many limited snaps. And you could tell he kind of looked a bit uncomfortable at times. Looked like he was hurting a bit. So you can kind of give him a pass for being pretty absent just because he was limited and he's injured. So I feel like for a game or two, if he's out there, you can give him a pass. But Zadarius Smith was a non-factor. Okoronkwo was a non-factor. The interior, once again, was fucking horrible. I don't think Dalvin was as bad, but just the rest of the guys didn't show up.
Shelby Harris was getting lit up, bro. There were a couple plays where he got absolutely clapped and was on his back by the end of the play.
Yeah, so the entire defensive line, one of the Rams' weaknesses is their lack of an offensive line. Their offensive line is pretty not great. And
shit, I couldn't tell.
And we fucking made them look like the 2020 Browns offensive line. We couldn't get any goddamn pressure. And when you have Matt Stafford, who's also kind of a stiff himself in the pocket, if you can put him under pressure, that's when you can make him, throw the ball in the dirt, throw it away, force a couple balls, and he'll throw some picks. But goddamn, he had all day to throw. And he was out there making plays happen. 279 yards, 3 touchdowns. Obviously, I know the secondary wasn't very good, and you got some guys hurt there. But if I'm being honest, I feel like if the front four could have got some damn pressure, everything else would have looked better. Because it's pretty clear that this monumentally great defense is only that great when the front four can get pressure, because that's where it all starts for this defense. And I'm kind of scared for the rest of the season if this seems to be a pattern, because we don't know how Garrett's going to be through the rest of the year, with this injury and whatnot, but the front four just was fucking terrible.
Yeah, they're the lifeblood of this defense, and like you said, I'm going to touch on what you just pointed out as well, because this was my first negative, the front four. The fact that we have no turnovers in this game, not a single sack, was very telling for the entire day. Miles was pretty non-existent. You talked about it. He was banged up coming into the game, and it seems like the more info we get, which hasn't been a lot still, unfortunately, but the more info we get about him, it doesn't look good as far as his shoulder injury. I think he's playing through it more than we originally thought. I thought he would be pretty healthy this week, but Obo, there were a couple plays where Obo was decent, but he was getting held a lot, I noticed. Zadarius Smith, I've touched on it all year. He's been such a fucking disappointment to me. I mean, I hate to bash on the guy because I know he was kind of talking about how fans were throwing him under the bus this season. He's like, I'm trying my best out there. It's not all about sacks, which I do get, and I know you're a guy that say sacks are very fickle. But Jesus Christ, man, 2.5 sacks. Guy hasn't had a sack in 6 fucking games. I mean,
yeah, I've been defending him more so this season because he's got a high pressure rate, he's got a pretty good win rate in one-on-ones, but just the past couple games he's been completely a non-factor.
He had one combined tackle today. He had no solo tackles. He had one assisted tackle. He had no tackles for loss. Like, when Miles is hurt, man, these two other guys got to step up. The DTs, I think we all thought were kind of playing above what they could do in the first couple games of the season. They were playing out of their minds, and now they kind of fell back down to earth, and they're playing about how we expected them to play. So Dalvin's still not great. I know you said he wasn't awful, but I didn't think he was great today either. The front four, man, is just very concerning what we're seeing now, because if Miles is not going to be 100%, I mean, if he's not going to be 80% out there, I think we're going to struggle mightily against the Jacksonville Jaguars next week, and then maybe even the Bears.
Yeah, if the front four keeps playing like this, I don't know how many games we can win, if I'm being honest.
No. And I feel bad because I'm like, you want to start your best players, so I'm like, you have to start Zadarius Smith, obviously. I'm like, with the numbers he's putting up, man, like, shit, he's not going to be here next year. Do you fucking give his snaps to somebody else that's going to be here? I mean, I might start Obo every snap. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'd necessarily go that far, but I do agree that he's just been very underwhelming, especially the last few weeks in this latter stretch of the season we've had recently. And it's just,
Jordan Elliott was piss poor today again as well. The guy was absolutely trash.
Yeah, we brought in all these guys and all this help on the defensive line, to finally give Myles Garrett some help. But, he was banged up this game, so, his role was going to be reduced. So this was like the games like this were the reason you brought these guys in. So, Obo and Dalvin and, Zadarius and those other guys could go out there and, make Myles' job a little easier. But it kind of just felt like 2022 out there where it's Myles Garrett and everybody else. And, even, we talk about how great Jim Schwartz is and all that, and he's done an excellent job this year, but it's kind of showing that even with that great defensive coordinator and the much more improved scheme and, just style of play, if you can't get pressure, your defense is still going to get gashed. And it really, really showed, especially down the stretch in this game.
Yeah, that's the frustrating thing with Myles, too, is like you have a guy that's an all-generational player. I mean, this guy, they even touched on it on the broadcast. Between him and Donald, they both said they're guaranteed Hall of Fame locks at this point. And I don't understand with Myles. Like, we bring guys in like Zadarius Smith. We bring guys in like Jadeveon Clowney. And granted, I thought Clowney had a really good, maybe half a season, his first season with us. But you bring in guys that are expected to do something, and they just don't deliver. I don't expect double-digit sacks from all these guys, obviously. But, man, can you give me 7-8 sacks? Can you give me a couple more tackles for loss? Just make some plays out there. And it seems like when we bring guys in that should be able to take over that number 2 role, they just can't do it. And they should, for whatever reason, I mean, their job should be a lot easier by Myles Garrett just being out there, but they're not getting home.
Yeah, they're not. And it's just an increasing problem going in. Even
Jadeveon's balling now. I mean, look at him in freaking Baltimore this season.
Yeah, of course he is. It's just how it's feeling. I forget. Yeah. Did you say your first point was pretty much the same as mine, so I can get into the next one, or did you have something more specific?
Yeah, I had the exact same thing. The front four I thought were absolutely terrible. No sacks and no turnovers is the worst game we've had all season for the front four.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, we're pretty much on the same page there. I wonder if we'll be on the same page with my next point. I think we will be. My next point, and it was pretty much my one big problem with the offense, is the fucking drops are still happening. We lead the league in drops, and I honestly feel like the reason for that is like the last 4 or 5 weeks. Because in the first bit of the year I felt like it wasn't as bad, but it's been bad. Even Amari Cooper's dropping a couple passes he shouldn't be. You know, Njoku has had some drops. A few other guys had some drops in general, and you know, I understand adjusting to a different QB throws the ball a little differently, but at the same time, that's the reason you're pros. You know, you got to go out there and you got to catch the ball in, you know, tough situations. But it's just a fucking drive killer when you're going out there and you're putting together a nice drive, and then you get a guy open, or you have a slight bit of space to make a throw, and it gets there and then just goes through the guy's hands, and it just takes the air out of you. And I'm really overseeing this receiving core. Even though I wouldn't call it anything amazing, it's still more than good enough to not be the fucking highest drop rate in the league, which is fucking sad.
Yeah, especially today too, when the ball's getting placed right on the money. I mean, the Amari Cooper one hit him right between the numbers, and he freaking dropped that one. And if your number one receiver's out there dropping balls, it kind of sets the tone for everybody else to be doing the same thing. So we hope he gets healthy here soon. I hope he can play next week. I doubt he will be able to, but if we have our number one out there doing that, it kind of is contagious with all the other guys behind him.
Yeah, 100%. You know, I don't know, maybe fucking have Stefanski get all them guys out and do an hour on the jugs machine every day practice this week, but yeah, it's a problem.
And I get, too, that we've had 4 different quarterbacks, so adjusting to the different style of play. I mean, Deshaun throws a very hard ball, DTR rifles everything in there. He's out here throwing like Baker Mayfield. The guy knows it's 100 miles an hour, so
yeah.
Going from him to a guy like Flacco that actually gets some air under the ball, I'm sure it is tough on the receivers, but man, I mean, one drop's enough. If you're having multiple games like Njoku, the past 2 games, today he wasn't as bad, but the last 2 weeks before that he had multiple drops, and Cooper had a couple last week. He had a couple more this week before he got injured, and it's just everybody's dropping balls left and right. Besides Tillman, my boy Tillman's out here doing okay still.
Yeah,
but
Tillman's hands look pretty good. I'm still very excited about him as a prospect going into next year, especially.
Yeah, I like the separation he's been getting too, but we're not talking about positives now, so I'll get into my second negative.
Yeah.
And I actually did not have the drops on there. I thought about it, but I had a feeling you were going to say drops, so I went all 3 negatives defense. My second negative was the secondary. I thought they were absolutely atrocious once again. Freaking Thornhill, man. I mean, I was excited when we signed this guy. He's another veteran leader. I think he's very good in the locker room. But man, I think his best playing days are behind him. This guy looks slow as shit out there. He's not getting to the ball. Freaking Delpit even had a pretty bad game today, and not a great week last week either. But Thornhill in particular is just slow. He's old. He's not getting in on plays. I don't think he has a single interception yet this season. Freaking, he's another one of these guys we brought in to make a difference, and I think he has morale-wise in the locker room and getting these guys to band together a bit, but on the field, man, he has not been playing well at all. I thought Emerson got cooked quite a few times. I mean, the one was just a straight overthrow on I think it was a fade route that Puka Nacua just torched him on, but thankfully Matt Stafford missed him on that one, but he was getting torched all day. Newsome, there was another play where Stafford underthrew a guy where Newsome got cooked and he just dropped it. But I thought everybody was pretty piss poor on the secondary all day once again.
Yeah, you're really missing Denzel Ward out there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I noticed that. I mean, he's a big part of this defense, but not having 21 out there, like, it was night and day.
And I also am kind of gathering that, with Rodney McLeod now being out, you lose that depth at safety, and I thought he's played okay when he's had to. So, like you said, when guys like Juan and Grant, maybe aren't having the best game in coverage, you can put McLeod in there and, have him kind of ease off for a little bit. And then now with, like you said, with Delpit, he's really good in the box, like as being almost like a pseudo linebacker sometimes. But now, like I said, that with McLeod being out, he might have to drop back into, more deep coverage, depending on the scheme. Or if he is still doing that box safety role. Whenever you're running 2 deep safeties, having him in the box, now you're putting a guy out there like Ronnie Hickman or D'Anthony Bell or whoever it is that's going out there, and then that's a problem because that's a third string guy out there playing. So the secondary, it just gotta get Denzel back. There's a clear difference, if you're missing Emerson and then you just have Ward and Newsome, or if you're missing Newsome and you just have Ward and Emerson. But if you're missing Ward and you have Newsome and Emerson, it's a problem. Like, even though I like both those guys, they're neither of them are true number 1 corners, and they definitely have some holes in their game. They're still very young and developing and getting better, and they were kind of the Stafford and the Rams offense was really taking advantage of that.
Yeah, Mike Ford was struggling out there too. I mean, whenever we have to start that guy, it's not good. And Cook left and right.
Yeah, he was playing a lot.
With Emerson, too. Yeah, he was playing a lot. With Emerson, I think he has the number 1, but Newsome, I think, is a very good number 2 corner. But from what I've seen from him over the couple years we've had him, I don't think he's number 1 corner, on any team. I mean, just a little undersized. He gets beat on a couple routes he shouldn't. And when your number 1 guy, Ward's gone out there, you can tell, like you touched on, it makes it harder for Delpit because he's not on that side of the field, so Delpit kind of has to change his game up a bit. And we have to rely on these linebackers a lot more, and unfortunately, Anthony Walker's kind of past his prime. Taki has never impressed me, and he was pretty awful today. And JOK I thought was decent today, but he's the only guy that has any speed at that second level of our defense. So, missing the secondary and then having a pretty bad linebacking core compared to most did us in.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. The secondary wasn't great, and the linebackers weren't great either. That kind of leads into my last point, was just the piss-poor effort defensively. It felt like we were missing tackles and, just kind of getting lackadaisical at times, kind of similar to last week, especially in the fourth quarter. It felt like they were just giving up. And that's not what you want to see, especially out of this defense. You want to have fight and have that will to go out there and win. I felt like we had that early on, but the last couple weeks it's just been kind of piss poor effort, shitty tackling, and just shitty across the board for the most part. So I don't really have much to add really outside of that. It's just crappy effort across the board defensively.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I mean, probably like 6 or 7 different times I was screaming at my TV. We couldn't guard a fucking man in motion. Freaking Cooper Kupp. On that whole drive, they ran like 4 plays where every single time either Cooper Kupp or one of the other guys got wide open on a motion play. And I'm just like, fucking come on. Like, it's effort at this point. Like, my third negative was Jim Schwartz. I mean, we touched on him and how much we love him, but he was not Jimmy Neutron today. He was like fucking Carl Weiser out there coaching the defense. I mean,
there wasn't a whole lot of adjustments.
No, he held up in the second quarter a bit, and I saw he was getting fired up because he was happy to see some of his guys making plays. But, man, he was not making adjustments after halftime at all, and they were getting cooked up and down the field. And freaking Cooper Kupp hasn't had a great year as it is to begin with, and Puka Nacua was this game.
Yeah,
to see that we couldn't even do anything with that. I mean, I get we're missing our best corner, but come on, guys. Like, we're still relatively healthy compared to our offense. Our offense is fucking decimated.
Yeah, it just wasn't a good showing overall. I don't have a whole ton to add, but I definitely agree. I think Schwartz could have made some more adjustments for sure. And I feel like
blitzing was driving me crazy too.
When we're already down guys in the secondary and Schwartz is dialing up blitzes without Ward back there. Man, Matt Stafford's 35 years old. He knows what he's doing. He can make the audibles and make the reads and get the ball to the right guys. So he was torching us on those plays, and I'm just sitting back there wondering, is Jim Schwartz this good, or is he a one-trick pony that guys like Matt Stafford, savvy veterans that have won games and playoff games, is he a guy that these guys can easily figure out? Because whenever we play guys like this, it seems like they have no problem beating a Jim Schwartz defense.
Yeah, I think it's just he's kind of hyper-aggressive at times, so I think that's just kind of his main issue is
which
you
can be, but man, when you're missing one of the best 10 corners in fucking the NFL, like, why are you doing it? You know what I mean? There's some things you can get away with when you have 21 out there that you can't get away with with good old Juan Thornhill and Newsome and Emerson.
No, I agree with you. That was kind of my point was, he's hyper-aggressive, and he doesn't really change depending on, like, personnel issues, injuries, whatnot. Yeah, no, I agree with you.
Don't get me wrong. I love old Jimbo. I just wish he was a little more versatile in some circumstances.
Oh, for sure, man. It was just poopy day.
Not good, man. Not good. The defense, I mean, I'm very confident in Jim Schwartz. I know we were kind of poo-pooing on him today, but I'm just hoping Miles can be somewhat healthy. If we can get like a 85, 90% Miles, okay, but this kind of makes it a must-win next week at home.
Yeah, that's what I was going to kind of end off with is, it was a tough week and, we're on a 2-game losing streak. But, still the 6th seed in the playoffs because, Pittsburgh lost. So there's still plenty of opportunity there. And
pains me, brother.
Yeah, it does. And then you got a team in Jacksonville who's playing pretty well. You got to go. They're in your house, and you got to go. Go protect the dog pound. And you're back at home. It's a 1:00 game in Cleveland, so it's a lot more usual, a lot more normal. So I hope you can go out there and it's kind of a must-win game, like you said. Go out there and play well, hopefully, and get a win. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, gotta win next week, man.
Yeah.
With the way the Steelers are playing, Kenny Pickett got knocked out of the game that I watched this morning. They said he's gonna miss this week and possibly in another week, so he might be out a couple weeks. So they're going in. I think they have a Thursday night game. They have a short week this
week.
They
play the Patriots,
right.
I think.
Yeah, the Pats, which Patriots are pretty freaking terrible, but if they're playing their backup quarterback and then they're missing their leading tackler on defense, he got knocked out of the game as well. So
right.
Maybe, I hate to root against the Steelers in that circumstance because whenever I pull for the other team, they usually lose. But I hate to be to the point where we're hoping other teams lose, but it's getting close to being that.
Yeah, it's getting there. But, yeah, man, I think that's pretty much all I got to add about the whole Brownies getting poo-pooed on. I didn't know if you want to touch on anything else before I get us on out of here.
Yeah, I just want to touch on the running attack. I hope to God we can get back to form next. Denver was pretty good. We just didn't have enough carries to really get much going. Ford had a good game, but today he was pretty awful. He averaged about 2 yards a carry. Our boy Pierre Strong got 2 touches for 20 yards, so he looked pretty good carries he got.
Hunt didn't look too bad.
I still think, man, he wasn't awful. Yeah, he was getting about 4 a carry. He struggled in the first half a bit, but I still stay strong to what we were saying earlier. I think Pierre Strong is running back 1, and I don't think it's particularly close, to be honest with you. I just wish he would get more carries. Jerome Ford shows a good game every once and probably like every third game he has a good game, but I wish they would throw Strong out there more. I want to see them get the run game going. And hopefully Flacco can stay upright and healthy and see what we... But the fact that we're just so banged up on offense, it's not looking...
Yeah. No, it ain't. Yeah, I definitely hope the run game can improve, and it'll definitely help complement, the pass game, whether it's Flacco or DTR or whoever. But that kind of fine.
Shit. He threw 250 yards, so we know he still can throw the ball around the lot. So
yeah,
keep him protected and then get the run game going a bit. He didn't really have anything to back him up as far as a run game today. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was very, very absent. But let's hope we can improve and go into play Jacksonville and get on. Get a big win. It'd be nice. We've gotten a few of them this year.
Got to go out and sign Jarvis tomorrow. Bring Jarvis in. Take Cooper's spot for next week, and we'll be good to go, buddy.
That'd be a real something. But
hey, shit. Any pick me up. I don't even care if he plays. Just give this locker room a fucking shot in the arm.
No, that'd be interesting. I'm not sure how that'd go, but that'd be a fun one. Do you have anything else you want to throw in there, brother?
Nope. Just got to get back in the win column, man. Got to be 8-5 after next week.
Yeah, let's hope. And that's
if
pretty. If
not, we might this might be the end of our podcast. We might be done, everybody.
Yeah, I might blow up the channel, blow up my PC, and just eliminate it. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I was gonna say we love ranting after losses, but man, it feels a lot better when you win, doesn't it?
Yeah, it definitely does. But that was pretty much our thoughts and concerns and sadness and anger-filled feelings of the. But yeah, that sums it up pretty well. But yeah, tough loss, 2-game losing streak. Gotta have a short memory. Gotta forget about it and go play Jacksonville and get a big win. So let's hope we can do that. And we appreciate you guys for listening. And been a rough couple weeks, but let's hope we can bounce back and get it going. We'll have a Cavs video up here very, very soon. We have a lot to talk about with them, so we're excited to get that out there. But yeah, it's been another episode of Cold Takes from the Land, and we will see you hopefully in a better mood in the next one.
Cold takes